Hello, students. Good evening. Today's topic is history of English or development of English language. So, let us start the topic. But yes, before proceeding, I would like to tell you that you should be mentally prepared for little bit. I will go out of screen and show you something else. So let us start first of all how English has become the most powerful language of the world, right? You must be aware that the English is the most powerful language of the world, most spoken language of the world. Now it has gained first position out of 7,000 languages which are spoken all over the world. And a second is, that Chinese Mandarin, that second most spoken language is Chinese Mandarin, and third most spoken world language of the world is Hindi. So English, how, what's the journey of English language, how it has overpowered the world, and then the 1.5 billion people speak English language. So let us see the journey of English language. So the history of English language really started with the arrival of three Germanic tribes. Yeah, before proceeding, I would like to tell you that actually journey is very interesting, and there are some reasons. For example, first is that's the invasions. Because of invasions, right, or attack, right? So that's a English has English has got the support of it, right? Second reason was assimilation. Then if the English people were going here and there, right? Powerful people, of course, they go for invasion, for attack, right? And then they made colonies here and there all over the world, in all directions they were going. So that is why they have accepted some new words, new grammar, and that is why English has got support. So, invasion, assimilation, and evolution. And by the time English was continuously improved, right? So, these were the three reasons. Because of this, English has got a very good support. And the stories start from three Germanic tribes. So this is very important for you. You should know about it. That's a arrival of three Germanic tribes, right? So this is a story starts or proof. If we can say that's the proof get from here that three Germanic tribes. First, they invaded Britain during 5th century AD, right? After that, this is the first step. So here in the this map, I would like to show you that three Germanic tribes. Let me finish, then I tell you. These three tribes were the Angles, right? The Angles, the Saxon, and the Jutes. Crossed the North Sea from what today is Denmark. So they had come from Denmark and northern Germany. At that time, the inhabitants of Britain, so Britain, this direction, Britain spoke a Celtic language. But most of the Celtic speakers were pushed west and north by the invaders, mainly into what is now Wales, Scotland, and Ireland. The Angles came from England. Angles came from England, and their language was called English, from which the word England and language English are derived. Very interesting, right? So let me tell you about the this one from Germanic tribes. So three Germanic tribes. The most powerful was Angles, then Saxons, and then Jutes. They three were Germanic tribes, right? Germanic tribes. And they had come from, what they say, that they had come from the north, from the Denmark and northern Germany, right? So they had come from the Denmark recently, currently, which is Denmark somewhere, sorry, somewhere here. That's a Denmark and northern Germany, northern Germany, right? Through North Sea. So they came from here, right? Now, as they attacked to Britain, right? So they three attacked to Britain. So there, Britain, the inhabitants of Britain, they used to speak Celtic, right? So here, that's a at that time inhabitants of Britain they spoke Celtic language, right? So they were pushed away from west and north by the invaders, right? So what happened? Then they all three came, and so that time Britain people used to speak Celtic. This was the language, right? But what happened that these Celtic speakers were pushed pushed west and north by invaders. Mainly what is now Wales, Scotland, and Ireland, right? So they all pushed, and here people who speak Celtic, they were pushed north and west, right? And which are right now, like means that time they shifted to Wales, Scotland, and Ireland, right? So they had to go actually. They were innocent people, so they shifted local people from Britain. They shifted to Wales, Scotland, and Ireland, so that they had to go, right? And then they were pushed away by these tribes. Now what happened? Then then the Angles came from, and Angles were the most powerful tribes out of all these three. Angles were very powerful. So they came from, this place was England. England. This is England. And their language was called English, and they used this spoke English, from which the word England, right? From which the word England and English derived. So I'm repeating through this map. What happened? History says that in the 5th century, Angles, Saxons, Jutes, three tribes, the Ingles, the Saxons, the Jutes, right? From the Anglo Saxons and 5th century AD, right? These three tribes from the North Sea, right? And Denmark and northern Germany. So this is northern Germany and Denmark, right? So from Denmark and northern Germany, these three tribes through North Sea, they attacked to Britain. When they attacked, so here local people, localite or inhabitants of Britain, they spoke Celtic, and these people were poor and innocent. So they were pushed away by these people, and then these people had to go to Wells Island, right? So they had to shift to Wells Island in Scotland, right? So they had to shift to Wells Island and Scotland. And for long time this place was occupied by attackers or by other people. Like you can remember India's history. In India, 200 years, sometime Mughals, then British, then right, not 200 years British only. So they attacked and they ruled in India. So this was going on everywhere. But yes, British, they were going to all directions, and then they had taken possession here and there. They made colonies, so it was going on. This is one of the incidents. Now, out of all these three uh, tribes, Angles were very powerful, and that's why they ruled. And then they came from this place was England, sorry, this place for England, right? England, England, and their language was English. So then this was derived, and here the mixed language, something they assimilated Celtic, but then this language, English language, was the main language, and they start speaking English in Britain, right? But it was mixed English, and this way this journey was started. So here this map tells about Germanic invaders entered Britain on the east and south coast in 5th century, right? Then English is divided into three phases, right? So here I will take you out of screen again. Once I have to show the diagram, right? Through diagram you will be able to understand. So here, through this diagram, you can understand. That's a right. So here very nicely they have explained. So I will show you. That's a English, uh, the development of English language is divided into three phases. First is Old English. First English was called Old English, right? Second phase was Middle English, and third phase was Modern English, which are divided into two: early modern, right? That's a early modern and late modern. So this way, development of English language is divided into three phases. So first, old phase, old English, right? So that was 5th century, or year wise it was, sorry, year wise it was Sarka. Sarka, C for Sarka. Sarka is approximate, right? So then we have discussed that Germanic tribes came, right? And that is why this old English is also called Anglo Saxon English. Jews were little bit like, they were more dominating, so that's why this English is called Anglo-Saxon. So then they settlement of Anglo-Saxon tribes in England speaking Germanic dialects, right? So they used to speak Germanic dialects, right? And this way they settle here, right? Then they actually, this is the duration, 450 to 1150. They little bit different, but yeah, this is around 600 years they ruled. Then for after 450, then circa 800 to 950, means after the 450 years after Viking invasions, right? So Viking invasions, assimilation of words from Old Norse, and simplification of Old English grammar. Now what happened? Next development, major development was happened in around 8000 to 915, this between this time. Then why? Because Viking invaders came, and Viking invaders were very cruel. Even there was one term, I remember, eagle eagle punishment something. So they were very cruel, and then they used to give very severe punishment to foes, right, to enemies. And it is said that, in front of their, like, very cruel punishment, but I'm not sure. But I have read here that Viking were very cruel. So they came and they brought with them Old Norse and English. Old English was the major, that was the English, which was brought mainly which was brought by Angles, because they were more powerful out of Saxons and Jews. So Angles English and Celtic, because Britain people, they used to speak Celtic. So little bit some words they have taken, but their grammar was very complicated. Inflections, that's a, that inflections means that's a change. For example, books, so that s prefixes, suffixes, affixes are called inflections. So that grammar was very much complicated. But when Viking came there and they attacked on these angles and all, so then they brought Old Norse with them, and this was the so this was the second change. And then they made grammar little bit simple, right? Now then they ruled for some time. Then in 1066, Norman conquest, they attacked to Viking attacked to tribals, right? So that's a, this way means they were wait a minute, they were ruling here right? Anglo-Saxons. So they attacked on this on them. Then then Norman conquest attacked to them, right? So this way, when they attacked, so then replacement of Germanic elite with Norman French. So the Germanic elite were replaced by Norman French because these people brought French with them. They were Norman French speakers, Norman conquest, right? So they were Norman French speakers. So they brought French with them. And this way, this is a big, very big change, and that is why this old English changed into Middle English. So now we are going to mm, read Middle English. Okay. So that is okay. Now, wait a minute. I told you that I'll show you. That is why I have to little bit. I have to do the change anyway. That is the next part. Okay. Then what happened? Then hmm. Okay. Then again, I'm telling you here. So then we discuss Old English. Oh, sorry, Old English we are going to discuss. That's a date is little, time is little bit different. Some says that 450 to 1150, and some texts say that 1100. So this way, 550 years to 600 years. That's they rule there, right? Anyway, then the invading Germanic tribes spoke similar languages, right? So these were the little bit similar, that's why they came together, and which because they understood each other, that's why Angles, Saxons and Jutes came together because they spoke similar language, right? Which in Britain developed into what we now call Old English. We have already discussed. Old English did not sound or look like English today. Old English was outdated, thoroughly outdated. Native English speakers now would have great difficulty understanding English, Old English. Natives cannot be able to understand Old English, right? Nevertheless, but interesting fact is that about half of the most commonly used word in modern English. This is very interesting that have Old English roots. Still, there are so many words. Grammar means we follow Old English. Old English we follow, but then it is not legible to modern English speaker. Anyway, now the words be, strong, you can remember water, right? For example, derive from Old English. So still many words we use when like we have taken from Old English. So Old English was spoken until around 1100 or 1150, right? This is Old English. So that is somewhere if we try to understand, so we are not able to read what they had written, right? So the Old English is not legible to us, but that's a poem, right? And this is in public domain. Beowulf, a poem written in Old English, but not legible to us, right? Now moving to next part, that is Middle English. So Middle English was 1500 to 1100 to 1500, 400 years, right? So this was the duration. What change occurs? Changes are in 16 1066, William the Conqueror, the Duke of Norman, right, invaded and conquered England. That's the part of modern France, right? So here, then I will show you to the map. That's a part of modern France. Now these people, modern France, they attacked now. So here, that's a William the Conqueror, the Duke of Normandy, part of modern France, invaded and conquered England. Now he went with his army, and then William the Conqueror. William the Conqueror. He went there, right? He was the Duke, and that's Duke of Normandy, and he invaded and conquered England. The new conquerors called the Norman. They were Saxon, mainly Saxon, no, Anglo-Saxon, right? And Jutes, but Anglo-Saxon. They were knowing, and these people were known as these conquerors were known as Norman, right? So that is Normandy. So that's a Norman. They were knowing William the Conqueror, and these people were known as Normans. Invaded and conquered England, and then brought with them a kind of French. So they brought French with them, which became the language of royal court and the ruling and business classes. Standard language, right? So that's the language for elite class, for royal, for ruling class, and for business class. Then the period, there was a kind of linguistic class division. So there was class division based on linguistics or based on language. Class society was divided into two, and then those who speak French, they were from upper class, and then lower class spoke English, and upper class spoke French, right? So this was the change. But in the 14th century, right? But in the 14th century, English became dominant in Britain again. So English again has taken its place, and it became a dominant language, important language. But with this time, it was not Old English, it was Old English was changed. Why? Because there was an assimilation of French words. So Old English came into with the new form. Why? Because now in Old English many French words were added, and this language is called Middle English, and that is why this language was known as Middle English. It was the language of great poet Chaucer. So Middle English, Geoffrey Chaucer had written many things, but the Canterbury Tales, and you know that Chaucer had written 124 Canterbury Tales, and 100 are still not legible, but 24 are legible. So Chaucer was born in 1340 and 1400, in which he has had written uh, beautiful poetry, and you know that. Uh, earlier when if we see that the history of English literature, so then we'll find that English literature means the poetry only. There was no prose form and novel, no, not at all, no question. But then everything was written in the poetic form. Even tales, stories were written in the poetic form. That's why Canterbury Tales. But tales were written in the poetic form, right? Anyway, so this was the Chaucer's age, and Geoffrey Chaucer is known as the father of modern English literature and the father of modern English language, right? So Geoffrey Chaucer had written Canterbury Tales into modern Middle English, right? But it would still be difficult for native English speakers to understand today. But that was Middle English, right? So some words are legible to us. For example, spelling of wind, right? And then swath, I saw. So that's a swath, right? He would, right? Never find. So some words I have, leaves, three. Some words are legible, plight, out of his book, right? So you can read and you can find that some words are legible, some are not, right? So this is the example of Middle English, right? So which is in public domain, Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. Okay, now I have to show you the that's next is that's a history of, right? So here I will show you this map what I was showing to you, right? Now we have come here, that's a Middle English. So how Middle English was introduced? In 1066, Norman conquest replaced the Germanic elite with Norman French. So they brought French with them, and then the Old English changed into Middle English. Right now, for again for up to here, Middle English was there. Then how Middle English became modern English? So that is also interesting. Middle English to 400 years, right? So that up to 400 years they spoke Middle English. Then what happened in 450, right? Here date time is little bit change. Here they are talking about 400 to 1400 to 1700. Anyway, so what they say that in 1500 to 1800, right? Because modern English is divided into two phases. First is early modern phase. So 300 years, these 300 years are called early modern phase. So what happened towards the end of the Middle English? Why Middle English had become modern English? So that's a Middle English, a sudden and distinct change in pronunciation. So next reason was pronunciation. Main reason was pronunciation. And what the major change uh, in pronunciation? That's a great vowel shift, right? Started. So great vowel shift started, and with vowels being pronounced shorter and shorter. So that's you can compare with old songs. For example, old movies, right? I would like to give you example of Hindi movie. So that's a, if you see old movies, so you can see that the songs and the way dialogues were spoken, like आपको हमारे पिताजी याद करते हैं. Now very straight. dialogues are different, right? So that was the time, old English or old Hindi, then middle Hindi, then modern Hindi, right? Similarly, nowadays, that's a great vowel shift. Long, if you have studied this linguistics, so this is long vowels, na? These are the long vowels. Ooh, right? Then o. So these long vowels were replaced by shorter and shorter, right? And then modern generation was not interested to speak this way. So this is the very big change. Great vowel shift. Vowels being pronounced shorter and shorter. From the 16th century, the British had contact with. So this was the first reason. This was the first reason. And second reason was, then the second reason was, that's a British had contact with many peoples, right? So that British, they were they were they had contact with many people from around the world. So they were going here and there around the world in 16th century, right? From 16th century, the British had contact with many people from around the world, right? So that was another reason. This and the renaissance of classical learning, another reason, meant that many new words and phrases entered the language because of need, because of renaissance revolution, right? So that's a many new words and phrases entered the language. Shakespeare had invented lots of words, right? 15,000 words, it is said that. The invention of, then another reason, very important reason, is that the invention of printing press also meant that there was a new common language in printing. Very important. This is actually very, very important. That's a printing, right, meant their new common language in print, and books became cheaper because mass production was there, and that is why books became cheaper. It was reachable to common people, affordable to them, right? And they were interested to study. Now if Indian society, we can see that every means many, most of the slum dwellers, they go to English medium. They study, they know the importance of study, they know the importance of qualification. Similarly, that's a, they were also rural people from Britain. They were very much interested, but for reading. But then they it was not affordable to them. It was not reachable to them. But then after printing press, that's a mass, because of mass production, it was reachable. Books were reachable to them, and then even it was cheaper, and more people learn to read. And that is why the best thing was, many people, they were able to uh, able to read, they learn, right? And printing also brought standardized, right? It brought standardization to English. Another reason means like uniformity, one uniformity was there, right? Because number of dialects, number of people, number, many confusion. So then by the time language was printing brought standardization to English. So because of printing, there was one standard form occurred, right? Then spelling and grammar became fixed because many were speaking by their understanding, by their own. so that it was fixed. And the dialect of London, where most publishing house were became the standard, so that grammar was fixed, and that publishing house were became the standard, because they publishing house, good publish reputed publishing house, they did not accept the matter which was not standard, right, does not meet with a standard language and all. So this way, this is also a big reason, um, and that's why Middle English became modern English, early modern English, right? Then in 1604, the first dictionary was published. Very important. In 1604, first English dictionary was published, because words was dispersed here and there. Now all words were compiled in a book which was known as dictionary, and in 1604, first English dictionary came into existence. So this is written by Shakespeare, right? Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, right? So that is the tragedy which was written by Shakespeare, and this is a sample actually. So here we can say early modern English, right? So some of the words, of course, are old fashioned now, for example this, but some are very common. You come, right? That's what is written carefully. This one is different. Your this verse is different. So that is for lines from Hamlet, written in early modern English by Shakespeare, which is in public domain, right? So again, I'm taking you to this map, early modern, right? So early modern, British Empire helped spread English around the world, because British people, they were going here and there, they were expanding uh, their colonies, right? And it was the time Sarsa, circa 1600. So this is English, early modern language. And then finally, we have reached late modern English. That is the period which is 1800 to present. So the main difference, how early modern English became late modern English. So that main difference between early modern English and late modern English is vocabulary. Very big reason is vocabulary, right? Late modern English has many more words. Even latest modern English has many more words, arising from two principal factors. First is the Industrial Revolution, and second one is technology. That's the first reason, and that's the second reason. That's why it became early modern English has changed into late modern English. Created a need for new words, because technology is coming, so demand for new words are arise. And secondly, this was the reason, industrial revolution and technology. But one more reason is British Empire at its highest height covered one quarter of the earth's surface. Can you imagine? That's a one quarter of earth's surface. This was one quarter of earth's surface, one quarter of earth's surface, and the English language adopted, right? Earth's surface and English language adopted foreign words from many countries. So, this way, English has got momentum, and now here we see that that's a growth of cinema, right? For early for late modern, right? So that's a growth of cinema, growth of reels, social media, right? And popular music, internet, right? And other English dominant media. These are the reason for late modern English, right? So these were the reasons I was searching the searching the most language, right? So that's a how many words, right? Words are newly coined words. So I was reading that's a newly coined words. I would like to show you newly new words, right? So that's a I would like to share with you that many words with Hindi, right, origins are now common, and these words are accepted jungle, avatar, bungalow, right? Vandana, chutney, guru, khaki, karma returns. You must have heard that karma returns. So these words are added into English dictionary, right? So that I wanted to show you. That's why I have taken to you. Finally, we can say that many words are coined. Fantabulous, right? You must have heard fantabulous. Fantabulous, right? So that's a combination of fantastic plus fabulous, fabulous. So anti-education, another example is anti-education, anti anti-education, right? Anti-education. So entertainment and education. One more thing actually I wanted to show you. Wait a minute, I have to see. That's I have find I have uh, wait a minute. The words actually which are very important, and there's a uh, new words probably, new words, yeah. So that's okay, I'll show you sometime, but you can see that, right? So finally today we have learned that listen carefully, that's a English a history of English language can be divided into three pieces, three phases: Old English, Middle English, and Modern English. Old English started from three Germanic tribes: Angles, Saxons, and Jutes. They came through uh, North Sea, right, and invaded to Britain, where local people or inhabitants were pushed away to north and west, right. Right now that's a Scotland, Wales, and Ireland. So they had to shift to these places, and then these three Germanic tribes they ruled there for long time. But then after some time, Viking came. They were very much cruel, and they used to give eagle punishment or something very very cruel punishment, and they ruled some time. And then after some time, French people, the Norman conquest, they came and they brought with them they brought French language with them, and then that was the French was the language of status, and society was divided into two, English and French. Sometimes they ruled, that language was ruled, but then it came back in 14th century. But then this time number of words were taken from French language, so Middle English changed into Modern English. Then uh, how Modern English had become the New English. Modern English, Middle English became Modern English. How? So for modern English, English is also divided into two phases: early modern and late modern. So for early modern, the biggest reason was great vowel shift, because youngsters or modern generation was not interested to speak long vowels and all. So they used shorter and shorter vowels, and it was the first reason. Then industrial revolution, technology change the English, then invention of printing press made everything was reachable and cheaper, and then people learned to read, and that's why uh, this was also another reason. And then it was need of time, that they had to invent some words for machines and all. So this way English language was being flourished. And then in modern time, the great reason was that social media, right? And electronic world actually made made the language form of language. And because of printing press, publishing house, they standardized the language, and then language was fixed, grammar was fixed. And then now still language is being changed, because language is not static. Language cannot be bounded. Language is a matter of flux, it keeps on changing day by day. So language is still being changed. So this is the history of language. Now this is uh, another paragraph I'm reading for you. I told you in the beginning, this is little bit longer video. So varieties of English. From around 1600, the English colonization of North America resulted in the creation of distinct American variety of English. Why English has variety? Because from 1600, the English colonization of North America, right? That's a resulted in the creation of distinct American variety of English. Some English pronunciations and words froze when they reached America. So they were froze, they were fixed when they reached America, right? So some pronunciation were froze. In some ways, American English more like the English of Shakespearean than modern English is, right? So it is more, it is like Shakespearean English, we can say, and modern British English is different. So some expressions that the British call Americanism, right? American era, are in fact original British expressions that were preserved in the colonies while lost of for a time in Britain. For example, trash for rubbish. Right? So these were words are used: trash for rubbish, loan as a verb instead of lend, and fall for autumn. Another example, Frame-Up was re-imported into Britain through Hollywood gangster movies. I'm just reading for you so that you'll be familiar. It's not very important, but then for for getting more idea, I'm reading for you. Spanish also had an influence of on American English and subsequently British English, with words like canyon, ranch, stampede, and vigilant being examples of Spanish words that entered English. Means through this text you'll come to know that how words are borrowed and how borrowing words, coined words made English more rich and capable through the settlement of American West. French words through Louisiana and West African words through the slave trade also influence American English and so to an extent British English. So that is British English. Today, American English is particularly influential due to the USA dominance of cinema, television, popular music, trade, and technology, including the internet. Every offices, big companies' offices are in Silicon Valley, and that's why the dominance of English language, American languages more and more, right? But there are many other varieties of English around the world, including, for example, Australian English, New Zealand English, Canadian English, South African English, Indian English, and Caribbean English. So there are varieties of English, right? But yeah, major, if we classify language, so American English and British English. American English uh, are modern. They are they don't believe in program PRO, right? GRA double M, Y double M is required, Y U is required in color, something like this. So that's American English. British are very strict and they stick with the rules, right? So that is Germanic family of language they have given. So you just read it out if you wish. So that's a these are the language family, right? So English is a member of Germanic family of language. Germanic is a branch of the Indo-European language family. So a brief chronology of English, so they have told like Julius Caesar, right? So that's a local inhabitant speak Celtish, we have already learned, right? So that's a timeline. 55 BC, Roman invasion of Britain by Julius Caesar. आपको you should know that Julius Caesar were very powerful. So that's Roman invasions of British. They by Julius Caesar, right? And then Roman invasion and occupation, beginning of Roman rule in Britain, so that Roman came and their invasion to Britain, then a Roman withdrawal from Britain complete. So first Roman invasion of Britain by Julius Caesar. So these Julius Caesar attacked to Britain, then Roman invasion and occupation, beginning of Roman rule in Britain, but then they withdrawal right from the Britain, then settlement of Britain by Germanic invaders, but then from here Germanic invaders came, right? And then earliest known Old English inscription, right? Then in this is Old English inscription. Then in 1066, William the Conqueror, Duke of Normandy, invades and conquers England. Then around 1150, earliest surviving manuscript in Middle English, right? And then Geoffrey Chaucer, that was the time, right? So that's a 1348. English replaces Latin, and language of instruction in uh, Latin, right? Then in 1662, English replaces French as the language of law, right? English is used for parliament for the first time. So that French was, that's the English replaced by French. Then in Chaucer starts writing the Canterbury Tales. Then in 14th century, that's a 14th century, Great Vowel Shift. Then William Caxton establishes the first printing press. Credit goes to him. William Caxton, you should remember the name. Then Shakespeare in 16th century. Shakespeare is born, and in 1604 a table alphabetical, right? The first English dictionary was published in 1604. Then 1607 the first permanent English settlement in the New World, right? Just the Jamestown is established, first permanent English settlement, right? So that was there. Then Shakespeare dies in 1616. Then Shakespeare's first folio is published. Then the first daily English newspaper in 1702. The Daily Corinth is the published in London first newspaper. Then Samuel Johnson publishes English his English dictionary in 1755. Then Thomas Jefferson writes American Declaration of Independence. That was also important, right? Then Britain abandons its colonies in what is later to become the US, right? So that was there. Okay. Then Webster publishes his American Dictionary in 1828. Then British Broadcasting Corporation is founded, right? So broadcast was there. And 1928 Oxford published its dictionary, Oxford Dictionary, first edition in 1928. So very interesting and very good information. That's why I have read this text with you, and I hope you must have got idea. And I tried to explain you best from my side, but still I found there are some preparation was little less. So next time I will improve and I will make another video. Thank you so much. God bless you.